Well, joining me on the show this morning, and I'm really excited about this because Bob and I used to work together quite a number of years ago now. I was on Life FM, you were on Rhema. But yes, joining me, Bob McCoskrie now from Family First. So welcome.
Yeah, nice to see you, Di. It was actually over 19 years ago. I think we're celebrating our 19th anniversary for Family First on
Wow.
April the 1st. So
It
that's how
says a
long it was. But we
lot.
won't show our age, will we?
No, yeah. Whew, there we go. I didn't realize time's flowing. Anyway,
Mm.
hey Bob, we're talking about a topic I think for many Kiwis, and in fact globally. There's this real sort of, I hear these two words together, and it just makes me cringe. It makes me feel sad and concerned about society. We're talking
Mm.
cancel culture today because Bob, in your career, you have experienced this firsthand. So I don't know. I mean, do you want to talk about those experiences? Because when we were talking off air, you said it's sort of been a gradual thing.
Yeah, some people say that being cancelled is a bit like going through puberty. You're dead scared of it, but once you get through it, it's actually awesome. And
Okay.
there's a kind of a freeing of going through cancel culture. But look, for Family First, we've been involved in some controversial issues. We've led the charge on a number of them. It started with the anti-smacking law, then it was the same-sex marriage. It moved on to the abortion liberalisation, euthanasia. And I think probably when I sort of realized that we'd probably been fully cancelled was when we sort of led the charge against the legalization of recreational cannabis use. And that was kind of like people got really annoyed with us. And I
Mm.
mean, it encouraged our side, but the media just didn't, the mainstream media didn't seem to want to talk to us anymore. So when we then got to debates like the conversion therapy law and the gender identity issue and our campaign about what is a woman, uh, basically the phones just stopped ringing. We didn't get any coverage. And so we really had to sit down and say, okay, how do we speak to our supporters? How do we get these ideas into the mainstream?
Mm.
And I think that's where the rise of other media outside the mainstream media, and I mean, even in the growth that you've had through Rhema on your YouTube account, there's people watching in different places that we used to maybe a decade ago, and so we had to make that adjustment, and we've looked to sort of create our own media outlets using social media, using Facebook, using Instagram, LinkedIn. There's some great programs out there where you can broadcast and it can restream to all these platforms. Churches got used to this during COVID so that they could reach all their church attendees who couldn't, come to the church building during lockdown. So yeah, it's been an interesting process.
Yeah, I'd love to go back to the alternative media in a moment and perhaps the people you're reaching through alternative media. But I also wanted to talk about cancel culture
Mm,
because, it's kind of bandied about, but there is a real danger to it societally in terms of conversation and free speech. Because I suspect there's a lot of people out there that perhaps would go, I'm curious about this, but I daren't say it
yeah.
because I know that the prevailing thoughts are different, and so
Mm,
I'll just be silent.
yeah.
Is this one of the concerns of cancel culture? Are there others?
Well, cancel culture generally goes after an individual or a group and tries to make them the model of how others will be treated if they hold the same views. So, a classic example of is Israel Folau quoting scripture on his private Instagram. It's also Bethlehem College with the attacks that they have gone under. And even with the deregistering of Family First, there has been kind of this well, we'll attack these individual groups. We don't like their views on marriage, on abortion, on euthanasia, on sexuality. We don't like the fact that they believe only women can get pregnant and that you're born male and female. So we're going to target them. We're going to make an example of them. And hopefully, we scare everybody else who holds similar views. Now, my challenge to the listeners and watchers of our interview, Di, is that we ask ourselves, well, have we been silenced because we're scared of the possible consequence? When I do speak at churches, which is not that often, but when I do, I often remind people about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who said, look, we won't bow down to the culture, even if we do, we're still going to bow down. We know that God will save us, and even if he doesn't, we're still not going to bow down to the culture. And that's a reminder that sometimes there will be a cost to our faith. The danger is that we think it's well, I don't know, Di. I wonder whether when we were kids, we sort of grew up in a culture where the Christian faith was still acceptable. There was this, people did stop on Sunday. There was the adherence to Christian faith obviously has plummeted a lot since our days as young people, and so there is a hostility towards it. Now, for Christians, we've got to just understand there is a hostility, and we need a little bit more backbone to hold on to those convictions and beliefs that we have in adherence to Scripture. If we don't stand for something, the saying is, we'll fall for anything. And the danger is we compromise, we go with what the culture wants, and then we're in no man's land.
I suspect, Bob, there's a part of your personality that is kind of courageous, is resilient, all of those things. But there must be times, when times get tough, you do just have to go to God and ask for strength. I mean, what does that look like for you in those moments?
Well, I think that is the issue, that as a Christian, you don't want to be offside with people, and you don't want to be called a bigot, and you don't want to be called a phobe, and you don't want to be called a hater. But often those, what I try to explain to people is those labels are designed not because you've earned them, but they're designed to shut you down. They're designed to make you go quiet because they know we don't like them. And I guess, my challenge is just to say, okay, is what I'm saying hateful? Is it bigoted? Is there any relevance or truth to what is being said, or is it just that they're opposed to the statements that we're making based on scriptural principles? If I can land at that point and say, no, I'm just speaking truth as we understand it through Scripture, then we've just got to get past the labels. They say sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But the fact of the matter is we don't like the names. We don't like the negative labels. And we don't want to bring the name of God into disrepute either. So I think, that's important. And so it's getting that balance of speaking the truth, but speaking in the truth in love. If we emphasize the truth, we can become a clanging cymbal. But if we emphasize just love, then we don't give people the truth that sets people free. So it's that combination of truth and love. And that's a really fine line. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. But we still need to be, bold and speak up. We've got to shine the light on what is evil in our society.
Bob, I mentioned we'd come back to this alternative media. So you're perhaps not being featured anymore on the mainstream. You're not the sort of go-to when it comes to Christian comment. But certainly that's changed over the last little while with alternative media. So your platform is actually growing through this. Can you tell us a bit more about that? And I guess perhaps a bit of a turnaround for you.
Well, I think as we've seen from the polling, the trust in the mainstream media has been steadily declining. And a lot of people say that's because they fear it's been because of government funding. It's because there is a bias coming through. They just want to hear the news and not be told how to think. A lot of opinion coming out in what was normally newspapers who were supposed to just give us the news. And so people have started looking at alternative news sources. And of course, the internet has opened up our access to it so that we can find stuff from overseas, but we can also find local commentary. And then you've got all these platforms. So it's not only turning on the TV or turning on the radio, we're now turning on Facebook, or we're turning on Twitter, or we're turning on Instagram or LinkedIn, or whatever platform is your choice. Going to YouTube and watching the latest interviews from Rhema, for example, on demand. So the nature of the way we're listening, and also how long we listen for. I mean, podcasts are very popular. I mean, some of the most popular podcasts go for 3 hours. I don't know how people find 3 hours to listen.
I know, I'm with you. I love podcasts, but I'm like, 40-minute one's good for me. But anyway, we're all different, aren't we?
And that's the key. We are all different. And I think we operate, to be honest, a bit of a scattergun, where we just think our supporters are in different areas. They're listening on different platforms. They like different formats. We want to get the same information to them all. So we aim for all those areas and different types of products in terms of length and discussion and style, just to capture as many people as possible and share our information and give a conservative viewpoint on some of the world and local issues that are going on.
Okay. Bob, it's been a great conversation, and I'd love to talk more on this, but if people do want to find out more about some of the things that you guys are up to at the moment, and I know there are many different things that you're talking on, you talked about all these different platforms. Do you want to give me a couple?
Well, I would just
there?
say go to familyfirst.nz, and you will see all our varied programs, our video programs. You'll also see articles, research that we've published, fact sheets for just basic explainers of some of these crucial issues. So yeah, familyfirst.nz.
So great to chat. Thanks, Bob.
All good, Di. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on Rhema. Now, if you found value in today's content, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel with the subscribe button. This really helps us to continue to produce more quality content for you. And hey, if you'd like to stay updated and never miss any of our future videos, ring that notification bell as well. Don't forget to follow us on our other socials, which are in the description below. And until then, stay tuned.